It's time to lock in. Season 2 is your opportunity to prove yourself, and today I'll go over absolutely everything released in the patch notes, talk about what weapons will be meta, the best POIs, and exactly what I think you need to do to succeed to the highest extent this season. Starting off, we gotta have a look at the patch notes. This is important to understand everything new and how we might be able to get an advantage over everyone else by using these new items nobody else yet knows how to. The first thing we see when we open Epic's patch notes is that this season includes a new POI by the name Mount Olympus. This is where the bot Zeus spawns. A bot that will give you Zeus's Huntress DMR when you eliminate him, as well as a medallion that will make you run faster and jump higher when sprinting. The DMR is good, but the medallion is only good for endgame situations. During fights in early or mid games, it's really awkward to play with. However, as the season progresses, I'm sure we'll get more used to it. Circling back to the DMR, if you're a competitive player, you might find it interesting that the DMR has always been a gun that has been incredibly OP when playing laggy servers. When people are lagging and are unhittable with normal ARs, SMGs, or shotguns, it has season after season been possible to hit these players with a DMR exclusively, something a lot of people still don't know about to this day. This POI absolutely requires you to have a loot path if you want to go here in the upcoming tournaments. The reason this is so important is because this spot is quite confusing, and however many times you land here, you will never be able to replicate how fast you can loot by having a pre-planned loot route. This is also one of the easiest ways you can give yourself high odds of consistently winning off spawn. The vast majority of players you'll meet in tournaments will not have anything pre-planned going into their off spawn. So if you do that work and get that sorted, you'll easily be able to get twice the loot of everyone else landing at your spot, and also some super easy elims at the very beginning of every game. Under that, in the patch notes, you have the announcement of another new POI, Grim Gate. At this spot, you'll find the bot Cerberus, who will drop the Cerberus's Gatekeeper shotgun and his medallion. His medallion gives you dashes that you can quickly teleport with from one place to another. This will be incredibly good in fights and endgames if used correctly. The shotgun on the other side is not impressive at all. It has a mag size of 3, shoots slower than the Frenzy, and overall just isn't worth picking up if you can find a blue hammer shotgun or a purple or gold Frenzy. This POI is extremely drop map heavy. If you want to go here, it's important that you have the best glide every single time. So making a solid drop map where you ensure that you're the player landing first is a must if you want to give this spot a go. There are many high and low points at this spot, much like Mount Olympus. So making a solid off-spawn plan as well shouldn't be too hard. The Underworld is the second to last new POI in the patch notes. And at this spot, you'll find the bot Hades. When eliminated, the bot will drop Hades' Harbinger SMG and also the aspect of Siphon Medallion. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, the very best medallion in the game. And landing here for the sole purpose of getting this one could be worth it for some, especially if you're an aggressive player. What's also really cool about this spot is that if you go in the water here, you'll get the same dashes as if you will get the Grim Gate medallion. This season honestly has so much cool movement, but more on that later. The final POI in the patch notes is Brawler's Battleground. This is where the bot Ares can be found, and this is a bot that when eliminated will give you an OP AR and a medallion that makes your ranged weapons deal more damage, meaning pretty much every single weapon other than your pickaxe. All these POIs that I've mentioned also have something called the God chests. These are chests that deliver higher quality weapons compared to normal chests. But unlike normal chests, don't include 3 builds of wood, brick, or metal. The 4 POIs, if played correctly, can all be golden opportunities to give yourself a way better odds of succeeding in important tournament games. If you're someone who enjoys playing very passively, Mount Olympus with the DMR as well as the medallion that makes you sprint faster and jump higher will be a 10 out of 10 choice for you. Whereas if you're someone who enjoys playing extremely aggressively, the Underworld is unarguably the best choice for you, as you get the Siphon Medallion as well as the Harbinger SMG. I recommend really giving it some solid thought to try landing at these new POIs in tournaments. As they're new, it's also going to be very easy to succeed in the first few tournaments, as most players will have very limited experience in landing there, and the players who have put in hours will come out on top consistently. In addition to the new POI with new mythic items and medallions, you also have a new item this season called Wings of Icarus. These wings make ranked a ton better for improvement, as you can move around the map super quickly when you have these in your inventory. Some seasons ranked is highly ineffective, but this season I genuinely believe that if you grind ranked, you can see a ton of improvement due to how fast you'll be able to go from fight to fight. Now, talking about improvement, let's talk about what Epic has said about competitive. But before that, if you want to give yourself a better ping this season, which in turn makes the game easier, consider checking out GearUp. This software lowers your ping through the use of uncongested network routes. Before I started using it, I would play on ping starting just around the 50 mark, but by simply turning it on, I go down all the way to around the 20. The beauty of the Gear Up software is that it is effortless to use. With one simple click, you ensure that your data travels faster and your ping goes down and stays consistent. Gear Up used to only be used by a few pro players like Asian Jeff, Mero, and Day back in the day, but now more and more pros use it like Reed, Sway, and Sen, really emphasizing just how much of a difference it can make. If you're on console, they also offer something called Hyper-EV. This is a gaming router that connects to your console and stabilizes your connection. If this sounds interesting, you can test out the Gear Up booster by clicking on the link at the top of the description or pinned comment below. And if you're on console, the link for Hyper-EV as well as everything you need to know will also be down there. Been talking about Gear Up in a few of my recent videos and the response has been super positive. So check it out and let me know how it works for you. Circling back to the competitive patch notes, we have a lot to go over, so strap yourselves in. This season, we have a lot of the same cups as last season, in that we have solo victory cash cups, duos cash cups, duos zero build victory cash cups, and naturally another FNCS opportunity. On more of the casual side, you have mix up Mondays and ranked cups. And of course, for all my console viewers, you've got PlayStation cups as well as duos console cash cups, where you can prove yourself and win a good chunk of money against other players on console. The FNCS is, for most of you guys watching, the most important tournament this season, and it starts in just 1 month on April 12th. That means that you have 1 month to make all the necessary preparations to make this your best FNCS ever. I'm talking fixing mistakes, finding a great duo partner, and making some pre-planned strats. Other than that, you also have a tournament for all the women watching called WOTE. To participate in this one, you'll need to fill out a player form that I'll have linked in the description below. Unfortunately, just like the previous seasons, competitive events are still region locked, which is a real shame in my opinion, but that just means that we can focus extra hard on the opportunities on our main regions, although it would have been fun to play another region here and there. Going into these tournaments, it's really important to play the meta to the highest extent you can. So let's go over what I think will be the meta and how you can set yourself up for success. In order to make tourneys as easy as humanly possible, there are 3 things you absolutely need to understand fully, and that is firstly the point format. Now, this may sound obvious, but the vast majority of competitors don't understand how to play the point format in an effective way. The duos cash cups as well as the FNCS still runs with a 65:2 placement to elim ratio, meaning the games are very placement heavy. However, if you get 6th place in a duo cash cup or an FNCS game, you only get 40 points, meaning you miss out on 25 potential points. What that means is that you absolutely must have a game plan around getting 1st or 2nd in your games, and not a game plan that is prone to leading to placements outside of the top 5. In simpler terms, in Fortnite tournaments, it is worth it to take big risks to potentially get 1st or 2nd, and it's not worth it to play safe and consistently get 6th, 7th, or 8th. The reason for this is firstly that the reward for winning is so high that the risk will undeniably be worth it. And secondly, if you consistently get 6th, 7th, or 8th, you'll play an insanely hard tournament in comparison to if you get 1st, then 20th, 20th, and 1st again. That is how skill-based matchmaking or ELO works in Fortnite tournaments. It's unfortunate that the tourneys are played out this way, but it's crucial to adapt to. Moving on to the second thing you must understand, we have always having 200 health. With the Frenzy shotgun as well as the new Cerberus shotgun, it is more important than ever to stay at 200. I don't care if you have a 160 health, 170, or even 180. When going into fights and endgames, pop big shields or fists and play at 200 HP. Your consistency will skyrocket and you will find that your tournaments become many times easier. Please don't be like one of the many players I see wasting their talents because they're not patient enough to pop a big in an endgame or in a fight. Ever since Siphon got removed, playing on 200 has become more and more of an advantage. And if you're able to understand the extreme importance of it, you'll be better than the majority of players competing. Lastly, make sure you're fast at looting, farming, and don't walk around doing nothing. I see so many players wasting a ton of time on both of these things, and as a result, they lack a disturbing amount of awareness. If you have the best possible loot in, for example, 4 minutes out of your drop spot and cap mats, you won't have to think about anything but getting awareness. Whereas if you leave your drop spot with 4 minis, 2 bigs, and 3 for 2 mats, you'll be thinking that you need some more shields and you need to farm on the way when you're rotating, meaning you'll lack a lot of focus that will hold you back in tournaments. If you and your duo are able to be one of the few teams in the lobby that can focus exclusively on getting awareness when rotating and running around the map, your positioning healing will automatically be many times better, and you'll also not take as much damage as if you use some of your brain power on thinking about how you can get an additional 300 brick. So keep that in mind and just make the tiny effort it takes to make a loot path as well as a farming plan at your drop spot. Now, next I want to go over some interesting finds people have made on Twitter regarding how you can effectively use the new items in game to your advantage. These are some things you can use, especially in the first few tournaments, that will take people by surprise and probably give you some free elims that will help you win some games. The first thing you might not know about is that you can dash whilst using the Thunderbolt, either if you've been in the water at Grimgate or the Underworld, or if you have the medallion from the bot over there. I found this from ScragginFN on Twitter, so all credits to him. This item is incredibly unskillful, and I know a lot of you guys watching might not want to play it, because of the fact that doing well when abusing an item that is unbalanced won't feel as good as doing well by playing skillfully. But please just put that aside, because this season is an opportunity for everyone to build some incredible achievements, even if you have to use the Thunderbolt. Now, talking about the Thunderbolt, you also have the ability to use it through walls if you use it like showcased in the background footage. I found this from NickPalm5 over on Twitter, so all credit to him as well. This can and probably will be a very good way to start fights towards the later stages of the mid game, or a great way to third party some fights already going on. This season also came with the addition of a new item called Wings of Icarus, and Martos, like the 200 IQ individual he is, has already made some super interesting finds. By simply hugging a wall by either pressing your W button or just holding your stick forward if you play controller and pressing your fire button, you will soar into the sky and surprise any enemy you might be fighting. The background footage is by Vanillas, by the way, so creds to him. I think this will, if executed correctly, be a great way to take height this season. Of course, it can also be used in fights if you see an opportunity to use it, because by the look of it seems as though you can get a free shot off very often. So I would definitely recommend learning this before tourneys start. My man RuffyFN has also found that you can rotate super far by fizzing and setting up a base like showcased in the background footage, and then using the Wings of Icarus left click to basically go 100 plus meters if you execute it correctly. Now, I do need to note that you are extremely beamable if you do this in non-laggy lobbies or land between multiple teams. It just won't be a smart play at all. So it's important to have the knowledge about this potential rotate, but you also must remember to be careful when doing it. On a totally different note, we gotta talk about what kind of players we will see succeed this season. Is this a season for the creative demons, the strategically smart players, the aggressive or defensive ones, or who in the world has the advantage this season? And how should you practice to make this one your best season ever? I think the players who will place best this season is a combination of highly disciplined players, as well as players who are willing to take the biggest risks, regardless of how much is on the line. Now, some seasons, it's super easy for great fighters to do incredibly well. And being good at fighting, if you can be confident even when playing against other top players, is a hack to perform well consistently. But if you lack the courage to make game-winning plays, you won't be able to qualify to FNCS Grand Finals, get a solid placement in a Cash Cup Finals, or for some watching, you won't even be able to win a solo victory Cash Cup game. If you're someone who is fundamentally insane but have hesitant decision making, customs will be a great use of your time. When playing customs, you should go for plays that feel uncomfortable for you, so that you can practice something totally new this season and get experience going for those high risk, high reward plays. For the majority of you guys watching, I genuinely think the first step to succeeding this season is setting aside 5 hours and making a perfect off-spawn loot and farm route so that you can quickly get everything you need from your spot. If you don't have a drop map already, I also highly recommend either making one or buying one from someone who's good at making them on Twitter. What I also need you guys to keep in mind going into this competitive season is focusing on quality practice. What a ton of players don't recognize is that if you have 1 hour to play, for example, creative 1v1s, it's better to spend 30 minutes finding someone really good to play against and only having 30 minutes to verse that guy, compared to spending the full hour against a bad to mediocre player. The most common mistake I see time and time again from people with a lot of potential is this: simply a lack of understanding that quality beats quantity. Also, when it comes to practicing Fortnite, the very same can be said for customs. If you're able to play against top 2,000 players on the PR leaderboards, that will always be a better use of your time compared to playing against players that are currently top 10k on the power ranking standing. You can also take it a step further and focus on other factors like making sure you've finished your daily tasks before sitting down to grind. Because if you're trying to get better and you know you have something else that you in reality should be doing instead, the quality of your practice will drop tremendously. I guarantee that if you go into the season with this mentality, this will by far be the season where you see the most progress, not only in your earnings and placements, but also naturally in your individual ability as a player. Another thing that yet again could be a super effective use of your time is aim training. Now, I know a lot of people find aim training extremely boring, and I totally understand that it isn't enjoyable for everyone clicking moving targets in an aim trainer like AimLab or Kovacs. But the good thing is that you can do aim training in-game as well, doing aim duels, playing zero build FFA, or even just playing a solo aim trainer map. What I recommend is just hopping into an aim trainer every day. And if you're bored and just can't do it, you just get off. Because what I've found is that the hardest thing is just opening up Kovacs or AimLab. Some days I play 3 minutes, and other days I might play for 40. And that's totally okay. Doing some aim training is better than none, especially considering the Frenzy Shotgun is one of the best shotties to use if you want to make some earnings in these solo cash cups. And as we all know with the Frenzy, if you're able to hit every single shot, it's an insanely good shotgun. Whereas if you miss just once, it can have the opposite effect. Aim training is kind of like hitting legs at the gym. It's incredibly boring, but if you do it consistently over time, the results will start to make you proud. And although playing Fortnite tournaments and going to the gym is an insane comparison, the same can be said here. Now, yet another thing that will help you out this season is early rotates. If you're not aware, early rotates is simply rotating instantly when a new zone appears. I'm not talking 5 seconds after it's been revealed or 15, but the millisecond a new zone appears, you just walk out of your box and get into the new zone. This works pretty much for any zone as long as you don't hesitate. With the release of this season, you also have something new called weapon bunkers, which is basically just bunkers with a ton of loot and mud benches that could be super beneficial to get in a tournament scenario. These bunkers will be contested, and considering they appear when the third zone is closed, you will have to be fast at looting and farming in zones 1, 2, and 3 in order to have solid loot to fight any team that might contest you. However, when I'm talking about early rotates, I'm more so talking about the zones after zone 2 and 3, like zone 4, 5, and 6. When these zones appear, I recommend trying out just rotating instantly. It will allow you to be one of the first into the new zone, and as a result, you'll often find it easy to refarm, get a great spot that's easy to rotate from later down the line, and you can also more easily get some elims if you're the first one to rotate. There really isn't much downside to rotating early, but if your awareness is bad and you're playing a stacked game, you might get lobby focused if you take the wrong path out of your box. It's important when early rotating that you follow a rotation where you won't get spotted by a lot of people. So pre-planning before the new zone you have to rotate to appears is crucial if you want to make this strat work out consistently. Talking about strats, you might be thinking, Marin, where in the world should I play in endgames? Is height the meta this season, or mid ground, or low ground? What should I do, considering this season is so heavily mat limited? It's a great question. Playing height this season is for the players who are highly aggressive. Unlike previous seasons, it's going to be hard to play height without consistently getting refreshes. If you're someone who's really comfortable playing from above and just taking fights on the teams below, and your genuine strength is fighting from above, then height is not a bad idea at all. Of course, you also have to be prepared to get challenged and pressured a lot, because just like every other season, there will be teams looking up consistently in the moving zones. Therefore, it is more important than ever to be proactive on height. You can't rely on refreshes coming to you anymore, because when one team looks up and you have to fight them, you need to ensure that you've set yourself up for success by getting an early refresh or two so that your mats are good enough to put up an actual fight. One of the most common mistakes I see is players taking height to a phenomenal extent. I'm talking they're taking it flawlessly, but because they think they've won the game just because they have height, they don't go for any plays. And then if they get challenged for it, of course they're gonna lose, because they don't have any mats or healing to win the 2v2 challenge, and therefore they end up going down and getting a terrible placement. I think height this season is a fantastic idea if your strength is fighting, but if it's not, then keep listening as I'll talk about mid ground and low ground. Mid ground is very interesting. This season is, as I just mentioned, extremely mat limited. What that means is that mid ground is super demanding to play unless you're really smart. One strategy that has been forgotten by the community is following tarps, and this season, well, following tarps will be insanely good. Naturally, you can also use the wings in endgames, and I think we will see it in play quite often, but considering how easy it is to get beamed when gliding, I think learning to play without having to use the wings is super important. On mid ground, you should set a few goals. In the first moving zone, you should follow a tarp, and then when you've done that, you should try and get an elim or two on the front side of the zone. Then when you have the needed mats to play out a good endgame, you stay at the front, tarping with hard mats and rotating rotate instantly when the zones swap direction. Insta-rotates and moving when you have the mats is a must, not only to claim space earlier than anyone else, but also to set yourself up to get valuable refreshes that might win you the game, coupled with the fact that getting awareness from the front looking back is way easier than the other way around. Winning games from the mid ground is often very hard, so if you have the opportunity to take low or high ground after having played mid ground, you should undeniably take it. And that leads me on to low ground. I think a low ground team will win FNCS this season. Now, the reason for this statement is because firstly, the mats are super limited, as I've said 25 times, and as everyone knows, low ground is the easiest place in the world to get refreshes if played to a high standard. And I also think just consistently getting top 2s will be incredibly easy for the teams who have a ton of experience playing low from previous seasons. Of course, when playing this position, you have to be super fast at responding to the zone swaps so that nobody claims space ahead of you, always using the right mats, or in other words, understanding mat switching, knowing when to use wood, brick, and metal, and of course, not missing shots. In short, if I was to recommend only one spot to every duo watching this video, it would without a shadow of a doubt be low ground. Low ground will be king this season, and if you have okay aim and you know how to tarp a little bit, you will see more success than ever before in your competitive career from this spot.